Good morning. It's 10 a.m. here on the West Coast, live streaming from Oregon. And today we're discussing the Michigan school shooting, violence in America. It goes on and on. It doesn't seem to stop. And we need a solution in this country. This is an epidemic. Our kids are afraid to go to school. They're afraid to go to class. And we remember all the way back in Columbine, all the shootings that happened then, and they said, don't talk about politics. Don't talk about politics right after. Well, people don't say that anymore, right? Because politics is preventing any chance at solving the problem. And the problem is the Republican Party. The problem is the Republican Party. Let's be clear about that. And protecting the NRA and the gun lobby and their profits. We had Chuck Grassley blocking Chris Murphy's attempt at background checks last Thursday. At background checks, that's common sense. And what did Grassley say? He said it'd be hostile towards lawful gun owners and lawful firearm transactions. Murphy answered that the Republican Party cares more about the health of the gun industry and their profits than they do about the health of our kids. That's right. Murphy's right. Hostile toward lawful gun owners. You know what's hostile? It's hostile for lawful gun owners to not demand the Republican Party change its path. Lawful gun owners, if they care more about their guns than their kids, then the priorities are wrong in this country. If they care more about their guns than the kids, then the priorities are awfully wrong in this country, and they've been wrong for a long, long time. And this is a multifaceted issue. This is there are a lot of things going on in this problem: mental health, the gun issue, being awash with guns, and lack of restrictions on guns, on the divide, the economic divide, the rich and the poor. That plays some role. Education plays a role. I wouldn't, as I said the other day, poverty, I wouldn't say because poor people don't go shoot up schools, so I'm not blaming it on poverty. But there's a whole host of issues because we have a large economic divide in this country, and that plays a role in a lot of issues. And video games. I know if you're listening out there and you're a video game player and you like violent video games, I'm saying that's a part of the problem. That's a part of the problem. Because there are studies. There are studies. The American Psychological Association has long said violent video games can increase aggression. That's been out there for a while. I remember seeing an article in 2000 that they were saying that, and there's all kinds of pushback, and the Supreme Court pushed back in 2011 when California tried to ban violent video games in 2011, and then a study came out in 2017, and they did a 7-year study from 2010 until 2017, and they did confirm that violent video games increases aggression in young men. This analysis studied countries from the US, Canada, Germany, and Japan, and it examined video games such as Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, Manhunt, and they found a linkage between playing video games and violent aggression. Now, there's inconclusive evidence that says that violent aggression is criminal aggression, but it leads to more fights, more calls to the principal's office, more aggression against non-family members. And there's another element to this, and the element is, do video games actually cause violence, or are people that are playing the video games, the violent ones, have a problem in and of itself to begin with, and that's why they're playing them. That's also an interesting aspect, and that aspect goes to right and wrong. Do people that play violent video games, are they either being brainwashed so that their decision-making center in their brain, which deciphers between right and wrong, is being warped? So their mind's being warped, or are they already warped so they gravitate toward these video games? That's a question. It's an interesting one, but it's out there. So there are a host of issues right now, and as far as video games, there's an independent investigation going on with the Michigan school shooting, and that independent investigation is looking at the role of the school officials in dealing with Ethan Crumbley, is his name, and how they handled the situation that led up, the events that led up to the tragic shooting of 11 people in an institution of learning. On the first day, there was a first meeting when the suspect, the shooter, was called to the office because he was searching the internet for images of bullets, for ammunition. And so they called him to the office. And apparently his parents were notified, but they didn't get back to the school, which is a red flag right there. Something's going on in the home. The next day, he was drawing some sort of drawing with images of a person being shot and some awful, horrific language, blood everywhere, and please help me, some deranged type of drawing with deranged words. And he was called again to the office, and the principal was not involved, nor the vice principal, just the guidance counselors, according to the superintendent. And after asking him questions, the shooter, the soon-to-be shooter, explained that he was just designing something for a video game, for a violent video game. So the counselor said, okay, and let him back to class. They let him back into class. Well, they asked his parents to take him home, and his parents refused. They said he should get counseling within 48 hours. But the parents refused. That's another red flag. You got a family which you're showing him he's doing something that's disturbed, that's a potentially threat to the safety of others or himself. And the parents refuse to take it seriously. Basically, say, we don't want to take him out of school. We don't want to take him to a counselor. We don't want to take him to a psychologist. And the school says, okay, back into class you go because you haven't had any other disciplinary problems. And they apparently buy his explanation that it's for violent video games, which in and of itself is a problem, because this violence, this culture, this mentality in our society has become normalized. It's normalized that for half the country, I don't have any statistics on that, but I would say for an awful lot of Americans, it's been normalized for someone like Rittenhouse to show up at a protest. He's not law enforcement with a weapon of war. It's been normalized to have these video games that are depicting murdering people, slaughtering people. That's not normal. That's not normal behavior or normal interests. And the fact that the guidance counselors just went ahead and said, okay, well, you're designing a video game. Well, okay, back to class. Does that make any sense? Doesn't to me. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what your your thoughts on this matter are. I'd love to hear what you have to say on the violence in America when it comes to gun violence in this country. It's very sad that our kids can't go to school and get an education. Schools are supposed to be a place of learning, of nurturing, of growing up. These are young minds. These are people that are not fully developed emotionally, psychologically. They're not mature. They're developing. They're in progress. They're on their way. And to bring them to a place that's supposed to develop that, supposed to nurture that, and to have them go scared, having them drilled to duck and cover, to fight back against a would-be attacker. In a rich country, in a developed country, in the United States of America, to have them scared in the classrooms around the country in the United States of America, with all the resources in the world. What country has more financial resources than the United States? The problem is that those resources are used in the wrong way often. The priorities are backwards. With $1 trillion military budget, with war after war after war, after we had Columbine, you had what? You had the bombings in NATO and Yugoslavia. You had Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, all the drone attacks. That's big business. That's big business. It's a war business. And you don't think, as Michael Moore said in Bowling for Columbine, that our kids don't look at that and say, well, the president didn't want to have to talk to such and such leader. He just went ahead and bombed him. Shock and awe. Give him shock and awe. Give him 48 hours to do as a demand. Demand, America says, do this. Or else what? Or else we're going to do what? Bomb you, kill you, invade you. Grenada, Panama. Let's embargo Cuba because we don't agree with their system of government, because the United States government doesn't agree with the system of government. What is that? What is that? That's bullying. That's bullying. And you don't think our kids look at that and see aggressiveness all around them in the culture? Aggressive behavior and all the glorifying of militarism at sporting events, and all the glorifying in the media and in video games of war after war. We bombed Grenada. And what was the excuse? They said it was a Cuban takeover. You know what met the United States? The U.S. Rangers in Grenada? Cuban construction workers. That's what met them at the airport. And the medical students that our government at the time said were in danger. They had no idea what was going on. They were studying for final exams. And they said, well, geez, we were shocked when the U.S. Army showed up. They weren't in any danger at all, and that's documented. And the reason why this is so related to the Michigan school shooting and violence in America, because it's about culture. It's about culture. It's these same politicians and their supporters that go ahead and say it's okay to do this dirt around the world. These are the same people that are blocking gun reform, that are blocking anything, because it's about money, people. It's about money and greed. What did George W. Bush tell Nestor Kirchner, the former president of Argentina? He said the United States has gotten rich off war. Kirchner told that to Oliver Stone, and Oliver Stone said, he said that? Kirchner said those were his exact words. His exact words, the United States got rich off war. Not to mention slavery, free labor. and exploiting Latin America, getting raw materials at half off. Or hey, we have to think about these things. Year after year, kids are being shot in school and nothing's being done. Nothing's being done, and it is a part of the culture, and it's political, and it's a part of the culture. So these are really urgent matters in this country. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Let me know what your thoughts are on the gun problem in the United States or the militarism that's affecting our culture. It's truly sad for kids to have to go to school and worry about being shot. It's not even high school students, grammar school students, kids, Sandy Hook. Nothing was done after Sandy Hook. Can you imagine a bunch of little kids being murdered at school and nothing gets done? Has America become numb to this? You know, this happens from time to time in other countries. It does. Every 10 years, 5 years, once in a while. In Finland it happened. It happened in Russia. It happens every now and then. It happens all the time in the United States. All the time. Constantly. This is a red alert situation. We have a pandemic, a COVID pandemic, and we have an epidemic of gun violence in the United States. I want you to leave me a comment, send an email. Let me know what your thoughts are on this situation. What's the solution? What's the solution? There's a host of problems, as I said, that contribute to this. Mental health, gun lobby, guns. Why do Americans love their guns so much? What's going on with this? Especially the right wing. Wasn't Jesus a pacifist? Now, I've seen some perverse so-called religious people try to justify owning weapons of war and violence with some obscure scripture. It's just not there. Blessed are the peacemakers. Turn the other cheek. Thou shalt not kill. Remember what Jesus did when Peter took the sword of the centurion and told him, he healed his ear and told Peter to put down his sword, put down the sword. Those who live by the sword shall die by the sword. And Americans like to talk about being a Christian nation. Are we? Would Jesus bomb people? Would Jesus talk about guns and my gun? I need my gun. Turn the other cheek. What are you so afraid of, conservatives? I'm a Catholic myself. But what are you so afraid of? If you have faith in Jesus, you're so clinging to your gun for self-defense. Why not have Jesus as your self-defense? Yeah? We believe in an afterlife, yes? Why not put Jesus, the cross, before thee and as your protector? But you love those guns. You want guns, more war, more violence. I need my Second Amendment. My Second Amendment. I want to hunt. I want to hunt. I want to hunt. What's up with hunting? Hunting, like deer, I think that's psychotic. Hunting animals for sport, I think that's psychotic. I think there's something wrong with people's brains who enjoy doing that. They don't feel enough of like a man. It has to be. Who would go to out in the beautiful wilderness and walk around with a gun and shoot a defenseless animal who can't fight back. Doesn't have a gun. We saw in Crocodile Dundee, if you remember that scene. What kind of person does that? I think that that person has issues. I know there's a lot of hunters out there, and if you run for office, a lot of politicians will be like, oh, well, Second Amendment, like, and the hunters, you know. But I think hunting's a sick sport. It's not a sport, it's a sickness. You can quote me on that. It's a sickness. So, yeah, I'd like to know, Christians, why are you clinging to your guns so? Don't you have faith in Jesus? Don't you read the New Testament? Blessed are the peacemakers. Love your enemies. Turn the other cheek. And yet this country with too many so-called Christians that bow down not to Jesus, but bow down to violence and weapons and money and greed. Yeah. What's going on there? I'd like you to tell me. Write me in and send a chat, send an email. Let me know why so many Christians in this country feel the need to own weapons and weapons of war. Okay, it's 10:22 now here. Just have a few more minutes wrapping up. Again, this is a sad situation. We need urgent action on this problem in our society so that our kids can go to school without fear and grow up and blossom and be contributing members to society without having to worry about being shot in their school. My heart goes out to those parents, all the people that have been affected by this tragedy, the students, friends, family. We need to think more in this country about violence. We need to put that front and center. And the question to ask is, first, have we become a warrior nation? Do we worship war? Do we worship violence? Do people enjoy violence in this country? That's what needs to be discussed. In every school, in every workplace, in every kitchen table in this country. Because this country is in trouble. This country is in trouble because the priorities are backwards. They're backwards. We need to prioritize social uplift, not militarism, greed, and we need to address the racism in the society. That's the pillars Martin Luther King Jr. talked about. The three pillars, the three evils. War, poverty, and racism. And they're all connected. They're all connected.